Hey makers! Hope you're enjoying our Star Wars week so far. For today I'm going to demonstrate making a paper bag Yoda puppet. This is actually based on a craft we did for Star Wars Day last year, but I wanted to change it up since we've been introduced to a new type of Yoda, as it were, since then. So this is the Jedi Yoda paper bag puppet, same kind of design from last year with a few tweaks. I'll put the instructions for this on a Facebook post that I'll be sharing after this video goes up, but it's a very simple and straightforward design, mostly rectangles and straight lines. For today, however, I wanted to demonstrate how to make a paper bag Baby Yoda puppet. This one's a bit more difficult, but I think it pays off pretty well. So first you need to gather your supplies. For this, just a regular brown paper bag will work. I also used a sheet of green construction paper, a sheet of brown construction paper, and a sheet of black construction paper, as well as just a regular piece of white printer paper. If you don't have the right colored paper, you can always just get a piece of white printer paper and paint it or color it the right color. So the head is the easiest part. It's just a rectangle about 5 1/16 inch by 3 1/14 inch. If you're having trouble measuring that exactly, you can actually just trace out the bottom of the paper bag and then cut slightly larger than that. Out of the same green paper, we're going to be cutting 2 ears. These are almost like triangles. The short side is about 2 inches and the long side is about 3 1/2 inches. On that third side, I'm going to be cutting kind of a wave shape to make the triangles look like those long pointy ears. Our baby Yoda is going to be holding a cup of tea, so that's what this black paper is for. We're going to cut a cup that is about 2 1/2 inches by 2 1/2 inches, of course cutting the sides to make it look like a proper cup. I'm going to use that same black paper to cut the eyes. The eyes that I cut out are about 1.5 inches in diameter and they're slightly oval shaped. You can do perfect circles if you prefer. I also cut out these little white circles. I'm going to use these as highlights on the eyes of the baby Yoda. It makes those eyes look a lot cuter in my opinion. This next part is the hardest. I'm going to be cutting out that jacket that the baby Yoda is wearing. So for the collar, I drew out this sort of kidney bean shape. It's slightly wider than the width of the paper bag. If you're following along, you'll have to just draw this out kind of like how mine looks. You'll also need 2 of these thin, long ovals. They're about 3 inches across. This is going to be the opening of the sleeve where the little hands poke out, so they also don't need to be exact or identical. You'll also need 2 more of these kind of weird shapes. They're almost kidney bean, but less dramatic. This is actually the sleeve or the arm of the jacket, and it's going to get glued underneath both the collar and the sleeve opening, so if it's easier, you can just set those 2 pieces down on your brown paper and then trace out the space in between them. Just kind of want a little bended shape to show how the arm is coming down to the sleeve. And then just to cover my paper bag, I also cut out about a 5 by 8 inch rectangle, just to make sure all of the brown was the same shade. You don't have to do this, but it's what I decided to do. And then the very last thing are the little tiny baby hands. So for this, going back to the green paper, I'm just cutting out 2 little tiny crown shapes. So with everything cut out and ready, it's time to get gluing. I'm just using stick glue, but you could also use double-sided tape or liquid glue as long as you apply it thin enough so it doesn't wrinkle the paper. The ears are going to go on first. We're going to put glue just on the very edge of the ear and fix it about 1/2 inch down from the corners of the bag. And this is on that bottom flap. And the head gets glued on right on top of that. If you want, you can glue on the eyes at this part, but I'm going to save my eyes for last. Next is that base jacket color, that big rectangle I cut out, which gets glued to the length of the paper bag. I made sure that this goes underneath the flap, that bottom flap where the head is. After that, we're going to glue on the collar. It's a little bit tricky. I want it to cover the bottom part of the face. I don't want to glue it all the way down because I'm going to glue those arms underneath it. So I'm just putting glue on the very top edges of this and then setting it down at the very bottom of the face. The next thing I'm going to glue is the black cup. You could actually glue this on top of the sleeves instead of underneath the sleeves, but I'm gluing it now because it's easier for me to do the placement. With the cup in place, I can kind of figure out the spacing for my sleeves. I want to glue the arm parts down before I glue the sleeve openings down, so I'm getting everything in place and lining it up so I know where everything's supposed to go, and then very carefully I'm going to take the arm pieces and apply the glue and glue them down underneath the collar piece and underneath where the sleeve opening is going to go. And then with those arms in place, I can finally glue down the sleeve openings. The sleeve opening should overlap with both the arm and the cup just slightly. At this point, you can also glue down the bottom of the jacket collar. Doing this means that the puppet head isn't going to be able to move the same way it moves on my Jedi Yoda puppet. You might decide you actually don't want to glue it down, and that's perfectly fine. The next thing to glue down are the little baby hands. We gotta glue these down so it looks like they're coming out of those sleeve openings and cradling the cup. Then last, but certainly not least, is the big giant baby eyes. I'm going to glue the white spots down onto the corner of my eyes first, and then carefully glue the eyes down on the head itself, spacing it properly so that it looks realistic. And ta-da! Baby Yoda is pretty much done. So now I have these two paper bag puppets with two very different Yodas on them. There's a little more that I want to do here though, so I'm going to grab a pencil. I'm drawing on the nose, the mouth, and some of the face wrinkles so that both of my puppets look a little bit more Yoda. You can also use a pen or a marker for this, and if you want to have fun with it, you can draw actually whatever you want. And there you have it, 2 different ways to make 2 different Yoda puppets. If you want instructions on how to make the Jedi Yoda, I'm going to be sharing that Facebook post after the video goes up, and it will have all the instructions and templates that you need. I hope you enjoyed this paper bag puppet craft. We've got another paper craft coming out this Friday, and I can't wait for you all to see that. Until then, everyone stay safe and keep making!